Good morning. This is a recording for Friday, May 3rd. We're going to continue talking about developing the language of shame. Brené Brown writes, "We have all been shamed by someone. Every one of us has been wounded by subtle and sometimes downright mean comments about the way we look, our work, our parenting, how we spend our money, our families, or even the life experiences over which we had no control. Shaming comments can be direct, indirect, manipulative, intentional, and even sometimes unintentional. What they all share in common is how much they hurt and how they send us reeling and desperately searching for protection. But of course, when we're spiraling and desperate, we rarely find effective methods for protecting ourselves. In fact, many of the coping skills we use to deal with shame only magnify our feelings of powerlessness and cause us to sink even deeper in shame, like using the shame screens we talked about before, pretending that we're okay, deflecting shame with irony, etc. In the next couple of days, we will discuss how speaking shame allows us to express how we feel and ask for what we need so we can more effectively build shame resilience. Today, let's start by examining what Brené Brown calls the shame trap. The shame trap is one of the most difficult forms of shame to recognize, process, and speak. The shame trap is often so hidden or camouflaged that we unknowingly walk right into it, and often over and over again. When we get caught, we come up shaken and asking, "What just happened? Why am I bleeding?" And the shame trapper often replies, "What do you mean? I didn't see anything. Maybe you're seeing things. Are you okay?" We are often so taken by surprise that we repeat the experience to make sure it didn't just happen in our imagination. Here's the shame trap story Brené Brown shares from her own life. Right after I had Ellen, I was very excited to meet other mothers with newborns. One night at a work function, I was introduced to Phyllis, another new mother. She was also taking time off from work, and I insisted that we go to lunch and maybe even plan a couple of play dates. I was so excited to have someone to talk to about my new motherhood journey that the very first time we went to lunch, I did the too much connection too soon thing. Anxious to share my new experiences, I said, "I wasn't prepared to be so tired. Sometimes I just crave a short break from being a mom so I can get some sleep or take a long shower." Phyllis replied, "Really? I've never regretted having my baby." Of course, I was shocked. I quickly responded, "My God, I don't regret having Ellen. I didn't mean that. I'm just tired." Without missing a beat, she said, "It's okay. Some new mothers have a very difficult time with motherhood. It's not for everyone." At this point, I started getting increasingly upset. "Listen, Phyllis, I love being a mother and I love Ellen. I don't have any regrets. It's great." She looked at me like I was pathetic and said, "It's okay. Don't get hysterical. Maybe it will get better when she gets older." And then added, "Look, I didn't know this was such a sensitive issue for you. Let's just talk about something else." I went home dazed and confused, and yet I kept meeting Phyllis for lunches and play dates. In hindsight, I think I needed another shot at proving that I was a normal and worthy mother and friend. I also think that it was just so bizarre, I couldn't help but believe that maybe I had imagined the whole thing. For about 2 whole months, every time I was around Phyllis, I came home feeling angry, depressed, and weirdly competitive. It got to the point that I would spend a tremendous amount of time and energy trying to anticipate what she might say the next time we were together so I could craft ruthless responses and comebacks to put her in her place. My friend Dawn listened to all my Phyllis stories and one day said, "Listen, you need to figure out what's going on. This is getting ridiculous." I remember replying, I know, I'm trying to figure her out." Dawn sighed, "Figure her out? I don't care what's going on with her. What in the hell is going on with you?" About a month later, I unexpectedly ran into Phyllis at the drugstore and she said, "Wow, you look really bad. Have you put on some weight?" Luckily, I had the flu. I felt so bad and so exhausted that I couldn't even muster up the energy to engage. I just looked at her, shrugged, and kept looking for my medicine. When she walked away, I thought, wow, that was mean, and it really hurt my feelings. And only then, when I dropped my competitive combat mode, when I stopped trying to beat her at her own game and instead focused on how I felt, I recognized my vulnerability with her. I recognized how badly she hurt my feelings, how frequently she said mean and shaming things, and most importantly, that I needed to alter my relationship with her. I had always felt bad about myself after our lunches, but it wasn't until I actually spoke the words that hurt my feelings, that was really mean, that I decided to end that relationship and spend time examining my own role in the whole destructiveness. Speaking shame allows us to translate our experiences so that we can learn from them. And this is a component of shame resilience. We can't stop shame from happening, but we can learn to recognize it early enough to move through it constructively rather than destructively. Going back to the Phyllis story, when Brené Brown applied the 4 elements of shame resilience, she learned quite a bit about herself and her shame web. This is what she writes about. First, I realized I was feeling very alone and desperate for connection around my new role as a mother. I was very vulnerable, and I would soon learn what a major trigger motherhood could be for me. I've come to realize that planning ways to get back at people usually means I've missed a shame trigger. When I am preparing shaming comebacks and gearing up to be hurtful, I am often already knee-deep in an area of serious vulnerability. I also know now that when I use shame to fight back, it compounds my shame rather than alleviate it. That's not who I want to be. And that's the first element of shame resilience, recognizing your shame triggers. Second, because I was a new mother, I had not developed the critical awareness skills I needed to know what a powerful shame trigger motherhood is for most women. I definitely individualized and pathologized this experience. I said to myself, this is just me, I am crazy. Critical awareness about motherhood took time to learn and put into practice. And that's the second element of shame resilience, practicing critical awareness. Third, when I reached out to Dawn to tell her about the lunch conversation and she tried to support me, I should have listened. I hadn't fully processed the fact that Dawn is big in my connection network around motherhood. I wish I could have heard what she was saying, rather than shrugging off her concerns. And that's the third element of shame resilience, reaching out for empathy. And fourth, during our lunch, when I said that motherhood was sometimes tiring and Phyllis responded by saying, really, I've never regretted having my baby, I might have used my speaking shame skills to say something like, wow, how did you get from me being tired to regretting having children? And if the conversation continued to nosedive, I might have just said something like, We don't seem to be able to understand each other. Let's just change the subject. And of course, not pursue that friendship. And lastly, I learned how to translate my experience in a way that allows me to recognize the ineffective patterns that keep me in shame, my shame screens. This story is a great example of how the four elements of shame resilience work together. I also learned that I have a tendency to use the moving forward and moving against combo of disconnection strategies to deflect shame. I either shut down or try to people please when I'm actually with that person, and then I turn into the angry, plotting shamer when I get home. Wow, what a powerful story, isn't it? I bet most of us have been in a similar situation. This was quite a long story though, so today let's do a short reflection around this together, and then you can continue pondering this on your own as you go through your day. As always, take a comfortable position and take a few moments to settle. Settle into your body, your heart, your mind. Settle into this moment, right here, right now. Nice and soft breath, completely natural. See if you can get a sense of spaciousness in your breathing, a sense of freedom, allowing all the experiences of the present moment to flow through you as energy that they are, without struggle. Now take a few moments to reflect on a shame trap story from your own life. Basically, an experience when you were shamed but didn't recognize it, didn't identify it as such, like in Brené Brown's story. How would you approach the shame trap now using the four elements of shame resilience we've been discussing? And let's look at this together. The first element is recognizing you are in shame. So, in that experience you're reflecting on, in that shame trap, were there any physical signs you were in shame? Any emotions and thoughts that could have indicated you were in shame? Second element is practicing critical awareness. Did you know back then what your shame triggers were? Do you have critical awareness skills around this issue now? If yes, how would you apply them to the situation you are reflecting on? Third element is reaching out. So in that shame trap you're reflecting on, did you reach out to anybody about the experience? If yes, what was their response? Was it helpful? If you didn't reach out, could you think now who would be the best person or group of people to talk to about this? And finally, the fourth element is speaking shame. So now try to describe that shame trap experience in a couple of short sentences. Be very specific about what exactly was happening in your body and mind when you were in shame. Now place your hands on your heart and send the energy of loving kindness to yourself for being here, for doing this challenging work. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well in body and mind. May I feel loved, cared for, at ease. May I know that I am enough. May I remember I am never alone. May I touch deep, natural peace. And as usual, as you gently let go of your practice, scan your body and notice what's going on for you right now, physically, emotionally, mentally. How are you, really? As you go through your day today, I invite you to continue with this reflection. Can you think of more shame-trap stories from your life? How would you apply the 4 elements of shame resilience to these situations now that you are becoming more and more shame literate, so to speak? As always, enjoy your discoveries, enjoy your insights, and if you feel inspired to share, please do so. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow.